This comment from Anthony Edwards has got Thunder fans fired up, resurfacing at the perfect time for the Western Conference Finals. The stakes were already through the roof with the first franchise championship hopes on the line for both of these squads. But Ant calling out the MVP raised said stakes even beyond the scope of this season. I just want to say, what's going on, guys? This is Gabriel Ebersole here with Thunder Digest, and I'm super excited to break down this video. I'm coming to you live right before game one of the Western Conference Finals. But before we get into this real quick, I just want to point out that 68% of you guys watching are not subscribed to the channel. And with the Thunder making this push towards the finals and hopefully towards the ring, you want to be up to date with that. And we're here to bring it to you. You want to get these notifications? Make sure you sub and turn that bell on. All right. Now let's get into what Anthony Edwards said. We're going to set the scene real quick by talking about how we arrived at this Western Conference Finals matchup. From the Oklahoma City Thunder's perspective, the 68-win one seed swept the Memphis Grizzlies in round one and then just closed out a hard-fought seven-game series against the Denver Nuggets to advance to the Western Conference Finals for the first time in 9 years for the franchise. Clap it up for the boys. All right, now we're looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves on the other side, their opponent. They just fell short of 50 wins. They're also in the Pacific Northwest Division with the Thunder, and they ended up coming out as a sixth seed this year, and they upset the third seeded Lakers in five, and before they beat the Warriors in five as well. Steph Curry went down with the injury, and we saw the Wolves take full advantage of that, and they gained some rest time coming into this series. We're going to see how that rust plays off versus our energy expended in that seven-game series. But we need to get into the leader of this team, none other than the 2020 first overall pick, Anthony Edwards. He played his fifth season this year, and this guy, he's a baller, man. Let's just look at what he's put up, right? He's north of 27 and a half a game. He averages almost six rebounds, four and a half assists, contributing almost two stocks a game. And he's an efficient player, man. He's shooting about 45% from the field. His three-point percentage was the biggest boost coming into this season for him. He's almost at 40%, we see here. Now, when we get into what Anthony Edwards had to say, there's not a lot of people that can really hold a candle to this guy in the league. However, one player who can, none other than our own near and dear, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And that is who Anthony Edwards was speaking on when he said something to Stephen A. Smith in February of 2024 last year. This is resurfacing coming into the Western Conference Finals because it has big implications on the future, not just of this series, but of the league. Let's take a look at what was said right here.
LeBron James was on the record saying that when you look to the future, the guys that are ready to take the mantle, the kind of young bloods that we're going to look at, he brought up your name, he brought up Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Your thoughts about that?
I think that's dope because I think he's exactly right. Me and Shai and Luka for sure.
Right.
Yeah,
you
100%.
wanted, you said you, Shai, and who?
Luka.
All right.
Yeah.
How do you feel how do you feel you specifically measure up against those two?
I feel like I'm a better player, 100%.
Now, like I said, not a lot of guys in the league can hold a candle to what Anthony Edwards is able to do on a basketball court, but one of the few who can, that is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. We're taking a look at a guy who finished second MVP voting this year, could be announced as the MVP any day now. Let's see what he did this season. We're talking almost 33 a game. We're talking five rebounds, six and a half assists, a block, and then almost two steals per game, chipping in both ends of the floor. And a highly efficient guy shooting 52% from the field and 37 and a half from the three-point line. This guy has been our offensive engine for a great portion of this season. And Anthony Edwards said that he believes that he is superior yet anyway. Let's take a look at what they've been doing as of recent now. We saw their stats from the regular season, but they've both been the driving force behind their teams getting this far into the playoffs. Let's see how they got it done. First thing I want to note, Anthony Edwards is playing about 3.5 minutes more per game. So I think that is something that needs to be noted. But when we're looking across the board, we're seeing pretty similar averages. We're seeing 29 to 26 and a half points per game. Both are scoring very efficiently. Defensive stats, identical nearly. And then we're looking at rebounding. Ant has a slight edge. And we're seeing playmaking pretty similar. The shooting percentage, we get a free throw edge to Shai, and the 3 point for Shai has been a little bit rusty this playoffs. So Ant is going to have the edge on the three ball. But all in all, we're looking at a pretty closely contested race for this postseason run specifically. Now, that might play into this type of series whenever we're looking into really nitpicking these types of players and this skill level of the S tier players in this league. Let's take a look at what Shai's done against the Timberwolves so far this year, right? 35 points per game in four outings, over seven rebounds, seven assists, and then two and a half stocks while shooting 56% from the three. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has really done damage to the Timberwolves this season. He's had 3 games with over 8 rebounds and 8 assists in the same game against Timberwolves out of 4. But this hasn't always translated to the Thunder winning. We see it in the top here. The series is tied 2-2 for the regular season. This 15 point Timberwolves win was the biggest win in the series. Every other game was decided by single digits. So there is a lot of potential for this series to really get to the game 7 point that we saw the Nuggets, to get to that real turning point where one player can make the difference. Now, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander himself, though, got on an interview with Malika Andrews of ESPN and responded to Ant's allegations of being the better player of the three between Ant, Luka, and SGA. Let's see what our guy had to say in his
Young
defense.
thoroughbreds led by a brother that is busting everybody's you know what.
Anthony Edwards, he was asked recently in an interview with my colleague Stephen A. Smith about the next generation, you, Luka. And he said, I'm better than both those guys.
I expected him to say that. I wouldn't expect him to say one of us is better than him. The thing about NBA players, and especially guys that are that talented, we all believe we're the best. We all believe what we bring to the table is special and unique, and he has every right to think so.
And so you do too.
Absolutely.
Young thoroughbreds led by a brother.
Now we see that Anthony Edwards didn't back down. Anthony Edwards didn't fold, but neither did our guy. He's okay with Anthony Edwards saying this. He expected Anthony Edwards to say this, but you best believe he's going to remember this when he steps on that court against him. Let's look at the very certain finite implications of this series, as well as the future implications of the series. Starting with very close up, right? We have these two are likely going to be vying for the Irvin Magic Johnson Western Conference MVP. These are the top player on each team, and barring a fall off or a step up from another teammate, likely this guy's going to get this onto their resume and get the accolade of leading their team to the NBA Finals. Why is this a big factor? Let's take a look at a poll that happened last month, April 23rd. There was a player poll about 5 years from now. Who will be the face of the league? We see Wemby get half the votes, right? That if he was to be LeBron, then we're arguing for second for who's going to be Kevin Durant for the last 10 years, right? And we see a very close race between Anthony Edwards and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Anthony Edwards is actually edging out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander 13.8% to 10.9% in this category. And this was done a month ago. So this is taking most of what happened, not in the playoffs, obviously, but in the regular season, almost all the entirety of the regular season into perspective. And still players think that Anthony Edwards may have the edge over Shai, just the same as Anthony Edwards thinks he may have the edge over Shai. So no better time to prove it. And what more is on the line than this, right? Timberwolves never been to the finals, never won the finals, never even been there. But nonetheless, the Thunder are credited with the Supersonic 79 ring. And whether you want to count that or not for the Thunder, I'm just going to say that the banner's not hanging in our rafters. So I'm looking for our first championship here. I do like a Supersonics history, and they are like a historic team, but associated with the Thunder, they don't have the retired jerseys in the pay column. They don't have the championship banner. So in my eyes, we're playing for that first title. We're made into our first conference finals appearance in 9 years, have a chance to make our first finals in 15. Like, this is prime time to step up. This is where we get the job done, and this is how Shai can establish himself as a face of the league moving forward, something that I think he has the ability to do, and he's been in the conversations to do. We saw that Stephen A. Smith, a ESPN media personality, bringing Shai's name up even last year, not barring his MVP season this year, where he's averaging almost 33 and carrying a team to a historic 68 wins. But Shai's in that conversation to be the face of the league, and yet he still hasn't overtaken Anthony Edwards on that totem pole. This is his chance to do it. Anthony Edwards' comments have added so much more pressure and just excitement into this series than there already was with a finals trip on the line. I'm so excited to see how the Thunder respond to this. Game 1 is tonight for the Western Conference Finals at 10, and I will be watching. I'm going to be hopefully dropping a post-game video for you guys, so make sure you're subscribed so you can catch that right when it drops after the game. I'm Gabriel Ebersole here with Thunder Digest, bringing you guys a video about Anthony Edwards, SGA, and the Oklahoma City Thunder. I can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Peace.